Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Bader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hey friends, Jason here. In this episode, I had the pleasure of catching up with Matt Lafferty, CEO of Curri.com. Curri is like the Uber of construction supplies. Several years ago, while remodeling with a friend, Matt noticed how much time the plumber wasted by running around to supply stores and picking up materials. He was literally killing his ability to make an income because there wasn't a great way to get the supplies brought to him. This observation led to building a network of on-demand delivery drivers with appropriate vehicles that could pick up and deliver materials wherever the contractor was working. Today, they operate in 49 states and make a delivery every 10 seconds. I love technology like this, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. This episode is brought to you by Connected Peers, an online peer collaboration platform for distribution professionals. Let's face it, most managers don't have the opportunity to speak with their industry peers about common challenges in their departments. Sure, they might see each other at an annual conference, but that hardly provides any real relationship building or continuity. What if there was a forum to solve challenges with those in your same role? Well, now there is. The concept is simple. Purchasing managers meeting with purchasing managers, training managers meeting with training managers, marketing managers meeting with marketing managers. You get the idea. There are 10 unique role-based communities to choose from. These are monthly, facilitated meetings all via Zoom. Ask questions and receive feedback from people who understand the challenges of your position. Isn't it time that you quit going it alone? To learn more and find your peers, visit us at www.connectedpeers.com. Well, hey, Matt, welcome to Distribution Talk. Thanks for taking the time to come on the show with me.
Hey, thanks for having me. Stoked to be here.
One of the big things with Distribution Talks, and really the reason I created this show, is I really wanted to hear the backstory. I wanted to hear the people that I interview, and I want to hear about who they are and where their idea came from and what are those big challenges. So if you wouldn't mind, talk about your backstory, how you eventually got into Curri. I know you've got a lot of other cool things that you had before you got into this. So if you wouldn't mind, take us on a little journey.
Yeah, I'm pretty connected. I lived overseas for 7 years. I was living in Laos, and the original business prospectus that I wrote was basically brokering luggage space, right?
Right.
So I'm overseas. I'm wanting to get certain items that are readily available elsewhere. And, these planes are coming in, people have 100 pounds to their name. Like, well, why don't I just sell that space to companies, and the travelers can offset the cost of their ticket or make money and then pick them up. So that was the original idea for Curri.
Were you able to make that work, or have you seen that ever work? Because it's kind of fascinating, actually, that extra space selling.
Yeah, there's actually a company that does it that popped up on our radar fairly soon after writing that business prospectus. It's always interesting when you have an idea that's already being developed and utilized. But that's not why we pivoted away from that. But that part was important because it got us interested into the movement of things, and then eventually got us more into solely on construction and industrial supplies. But that journey was unique because we didn't want B2C opportunities. We were looking for B2B opportunities.
Sure.
And we didn't want to be involved in food. Obviously, that market's flooded. Low margins, and personally, just feels like a low impact type of business.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in, and so is my co-founder, Brian Gonzalez, into making people more profitable, making their businesses more successful, making them more efficient so that they can spend time with their families, provide better for their families, gain back that time.
Sure.
So we looked at a bunch of different businesses. Construction was super interesting. We were at my co-founder's house in the early days, we're talking summer 2018 when I came back from Laos. He had a plumber over, and we just started chatting with him. We noticed he was making supply runs for an hour and a half every day. It was a big project, right?
Right.
And we did some napkin math, you're losing about a month of time. You're compounded annually of what we called at that time productivity time.
Right.
And so we started to realize like that wasn't really like the best
Mm-hmm.
focus on contractors, because we're picking up from, man, we didn't even heard of these businesses that, because I was me driving, my co-founder driving, I was driving my 2003 Ford Focus, picking up small construction items, and just started to notice all these stores we're picking up.
Right.
And then started doing some research and realizing actually how vast and large this industry is across the US. And it was really surprising. It's all hiding in plain sight.
Oh, absolutely.
And then so we started really just focusing on the distributor, that anybody who sells and distributes construction and industrial supplies became our main focus. So I mean, that's it in a nutshell. Quite a journey. I mean, going from overseas to what we're doing now.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the overseas for just a minute. I know it's a bit of a departure, but what were you doing in Laos?
I was teaching English. Yeah, so I did that for 7 years, working with an organization called ELIC, and it was just a really good time for my wife and I. It was an amazing experience. Definitely became a part of me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it does shape you. I mean, I think and I'd shared with you in a previous conversation that right out of college, I went over to Tokyo and I taught English for a year. And, it's one of those experiences that you don't really know exactly how that's going to translate into your career. But I think that just being able to navigate in a completely foreign situation and be resilient. I mean, I think that was the fascinating thing. Yeah, absolutely love the experience. And I share that with really any young person I know trying to, before they really jump into whatever they think they're going to have as a career, go overseas, go see something really completely different and test yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of what that experience for me, at least, was testing myself to see, can I actually get a job in a place that, I don't speak the language well? And can I survive without all of the creature comforts that I've come to know?
Everything, all your go-tos, like culture, food, language, like knowing how to get places, everything is removed from you, and like communication just to boot.
Yeah.
And it's like being younger than a preschooler, and you're just trying to figure things out. So I enjoyed that part too. Just like just looking for patterns in how things operate without having a preconceived idea, like the way I'm doing it is best. Like, oh, no. It's actually pretty interesting because you're trying to learn another system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's actually what is good for things that you and I are involved in, is learning a new system. Sort of gives you an interesting perspective rather than like this parochial view of having never left.
Right.
Once you leave, you can start to see different elements and see them a little more clearly.
And I think it gives you that, and to that same point, really, it gives you that sense of awe. And I think I was always really, in my time overseas, it was that sense of awe. And then when I came into, what I do today, it is really every experience I have, it's like I'm able to appreciate this newness and this freshness and this different perspective. I think without my previous experience, without that experience, really being thrust into a situation where I used to tell people that it was a successful dining experience if something didn't leave my plate or if I actually, could put it down with a straight face. I mean, and without that kind of experience, I just don't know if I would have had the same appreciation for the new things that I experience, especially in my career today.
Oh, yeah. Fully aligned there. Gets you ready for new experiences, especially when you're just forced into it.
It does. Yeah, you are. You're forced into it. You're forced, again, to be resilient and look at that. And I think looking at now where your path is going, it kind of really prepped you for that entrepreneurial view of the world.
Yeah, like the uncertainty, like not knowing something, not knowing how this works or what it's going to look like in the future. Like it gives you a very comfortable level of ambiguity.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of people can't do that. I think, yes, definitely those kinds of experiences shape you and help you be open and willing to, that uncomfort of being an entrepreneur and trying something that nobody else has touched before.
Yeah. And that's the fun part.
It is. I mean, break it. How many times do you bang your head against, break it and then fix it and break it and fix it. And yep, that was dumb. Okay, let's try something else.
Yeah, like the willingness to not only be wrong, but to be shown that you're wrong. Mm-hmm. And then to quickly just admit it by like detaching your ego from the situation. I don't know, if you're like a leader over something, it's really nice to be able to look at something very quickly because everyone else realizes it. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, yeah, that was a mistake. But what did we learn? You don't have to focus on the mistake, but what did we learn? And like, this is like, it's very popular, I think, in our culture now, which is sort of cool to see that, making the I think it's becoming more mainstream to think along those lines, more in that linear fashion. But I think it's more of like a myriad of actions where if you can just detach your ego from it, and everyone just wants to improve. If you think you can't improve something, then you're dying on the vine, essentially.
Yeah.
You want to be able to grow. You want to be dynamic. Once you do find like some more, if we're talking business, like product market fit.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. But how do you create more of a moat and become even more increasing that product market fit and then increasing your defensibility over that product market fit?
Yeah.
And so it was always fun to jam on things like that, but it does require a little bit of humility.
It is. I mean, so glad you just brought that word up. That was something that was racing through my mind right there. Is just my favorite definition has always been the ability to remain teachable. And it's exactly what you're talking about. If you are not teachable any longer, you will die on the vine. And the product will die on the vine.
Your work culture.
The people around you will die on the vine. I mean, it's just
Everything.
It's infectious from a leadership standpoint. So the minute you think you got all the answers, something's going to tell you you're wrong.
Do you know what's always funny? To sort of like but to crack a joke, try and keep like real deadpan face. And you just tell people, I am very humble. It's just so ironic.
Absolutely.
You can't really claim that and keep a straight face, but
no,
it's funny to watch people's reactions.
For sure. So early on at Curri, jumping back into where you all started and came from, that experience with a plumber and seeing this person is essentially stealing from their earning potential by running to the shop all the time. They're just killing themselves. And, as small business people and this person could have been a one man shop or something like that. They're really killing their potential earnings by not staying with the application until done.
Yep.
I think that was incredibly observant, but what forced you to switch over to really focus more on distribution versus that contractor?
The way that like my co-founder and I have approached this business is to observe and build what people want and need versus building something first and saying it's a great idea. And then people will buy it, buy the service, buy the product, whatever it might be.
Right.
And so this just came through observing the workflow and what's already been established for like literally hundreds of years. If you look at very, very old construction ads, like it's like late 1800s, earlier, you'll see advertising where it says it offers free delivery. But that, again, that's the business entity that is selling the product and supplies.
Right.
So we started to notice this pattern. It is really expected from the contractor who's purchasing the supplies from, if they're doing a certain level of volume, they really do expect that service to be delivered. So it's just like Curri noticing patterns and expectations from our customer's customer, right? So who does it make more sense to be able to deliver on demand or scheduled or with routes nationwide at the touch of a button, any vehicle? Like it makes more sense to go to the distributors. They can decide on if they're going to push that cost onto the contractor or if they're going to absorb the cost. Like we don't care. Our price is our price, and it's very, very, very competitive. It's a much cheaper option than even using their in-house owned fleet.
Their own fleet. Absolutely.
Much better. And it's also better for the contractor too, because the contractor, let's say even more than a single person operation, if they have 3 or 4 employees, they're on site making prevailing wage. They're not the business owner, but you know what? They're going to be getting paid the same amount driving to pick up those supplies and coming back. And that's no knock on them. Like sometimes those trips are good to maintain a good sales relationship, but they're not needed all the time. And especially when you have people waiting on site for certain supplies and then from the distributor perspective, if their own truck is already out on a delivery and then there's a delay that crew can't wait for, well, then it also doesn't make sense because they're going to lose a sale, right? So Curri is essentially a sales amplification tool for the distributor. It's not just a sales enablement tool. Like we amplify their sales. And at the same time, we reduce a ton of their costs. We take on the risk, insurance, the vehicles. They don't have to have all those capital expenses to invest in a truck, the maintenance of it, the insurance of it, managing it, and also just the cost of maintaining all that every month will be roughly the same, and it doesn't perfectly match the demand, right? Whereas you use Curri, it perfectly matches the demand.
Right.
And so depending on the size of the business, we're saving distributors millions of dollars, depending how large they are. And we don't just focus on one level of distributor.
Right.
It's all levels. I mean, we allow a single mom and pop shop to have like the type of level service that Amazon provides, but for construction and industrial supplies solely, because that's our focus.
Mm-hmm. It's a focus that's near and dear to my heart. That's what I grew up in, is construction supply. I mean, it's my world. And so I saw a lot of the challenges that you're talking about. And you're really, and frankly, this is what was attractive about your company, was really that, again, growing up in the business, growing up as a branch manager at one time, in Denver, I remember we would work with, at this time, it was called the Pony Express, and it was this Pony Express service. And you'd have them come. In fact, oh my God, we would get taxis sometimes. We would get, this is back in the old days. We didn't have Ubers or things like that, but we have taxis come and deliver to job sites, if it was that critical. But there would be these services like, as I said, Pony Express. It would be a fixed amount of dollars for a certain mile radius.
Yep.
And then the challenge with that, I mean, it was a great service. Don't get me wrong. It was fantastic. And frankly, they didn't charge enough. I mean, it was actually really cheap. It was kind of too cheap. But then I started to see who the drivers and the vehicles were.
Right.
Somebody would come in a beat up sedan, hoopty, and they would grab this stuff and expect to be able to deliver onto a job site. And invariably, it didn't work out, or they had difficult time finding who to sign for something, and they just didn't keep a level of professionalism. So it was such a last resort type of option for us when that happened. But you will have done things a little bit differently to avoid some of those pitfalls.
Yeah, a lot of that is the tech behind it, right? So as far as finding drop-off locations when they're booking, like you can literally drop a pin where you want these supplies delivered.
Right.
There's field notes and things like that, or contact numbers that are reached out to make sure that you get the supplies where they need to be. Proof of delivery photos.
Yeah.
Pick up and drop off to like verify that they weren't damaged in transit, nor when they were picked up. Essentially, distributors love that because it just proves like, no, they were broken on site by your crew or some other element.
Right.
They were delivered in good stand condition.
Right.
Picked up and delivered in good stand. Like those proof of delivery photos are just so key for distributors to have.
Oh, they're golden. Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And signature. And then proof of delivery signature from the pickup. And then another thing that helps with the confusion is live tracking. So there's none of this call back and forth. Where are the supplies? Literally, they're just sending, here's a tracking URL. They can see it arriving. And then it's just a huge benefit for them all. Oh, and then just like PO numbers, right? So attaching the sales to a particular delivery. Again, all of that was built because we were listening to distributors.
Yeah.
What do you need? Like, what would help?
Right.
It was based around what they're asking for.
Sure.
It was great.
Well, a lot of it, a couple of things you're mentioning there. One is that tracking. A lot of companies go to their tracking for their own vehicles, like a Fleet Boss or something like that, to follow that.
Sure.
Because there's that age-old question, somebody calls into the customer service desk, hey, where's my stuff? Well, I'm not really sure where your stuff. It could be here between this huge window. Now, they can do it a lot more efficiently. And then it sounds to me like you all have built that into your platform.
Yes.
But one of the other things you mentioned is literally dropping a pin where something's being delivered. I can't tell you how many times that we would be trying to deliver to a place that didn't have a physical address at this point. It was too early in the project.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like waterworks, right? Where you're just laying the foundation for waterworks projects when there's like a new site just outside of a suburb or something of that nature.
There's no address. Yeah.
There's no address. There's nothing. You have to go drop a pin.
We used to literally, and this is again going way back in time we would use what's called Thomas guides. And they were these maps that you would literally flip. It was like a flip book of maps. And so as a driver, you learn to knee steer and you flip flip over through the maps. Oh, you're going to this page and then to this page.
Big fan of Thomas guides. When I used to deliver pizza like way back in the day when I was a teenager.
Right.
And
right.
Yeah, Thomas guide, that was my jam. I used it all the time.
That was.
Yep.
Absolutely. But literally we would say, okay, page this and this page on the Thomas guide. And it's these, this intersection between this and this. There is approximately where you're going to be delivering. So
between A4 and A5, somewhere.
Totally.
We're not quite sure which quadrant it's in, but it's around there.
Just keep looking around for job shacks.
Yeah. Dude, yeah. I can identify with that.
That was my life, man. Yep. 16 years old in the Thomas guide, man. That was it. I was out rocking and rolling. So
and that was me delivering pizzas. And then I realized like, holy cow, like I was asking other people delivering pizzas, I'm like, how the heck are you seeing the addresses without getting out of your car at night? I couldn't realize like, oh, I have astigmatism and that's why I can't see. I just need to see an optometrist. So that came late.
There you go. So far, you really started running with Curri in 2018, 2019?
Came back from Laos, middle of May 2018.
Yeah.
And then we launched product January 2019. And since then, we've gone from just making deliveries fairly locally here, Southern California, to providing deliveries in 49 states.
Yeah.
Nationwide. So,
I mean, those early days of you in your own car.
Yeah.
Running around. Yeah. You actually physically delivering stuff.
Oh, I'll still do it once in a while. I want to experience the product. And I still love chatting with customers. Like, one of my favorite things is actually visiting the distribution branches.
Yeah.
Because it's just fun. You'll sit on a lot of them have like those, like the bar stools that spin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I just like grabbing a seat and having a conversation for a bit and just learning about the business and chatting, just because like they're not expecting me to know much about it.
Right.
But I'm more just trying to get more information, like, oh, how's business? What's going on there? Understand what they're doing.
Yep. How can we improve the product? Where's your pain points? Those types of things. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think it's very important, to get out in amongst them. So, you said you're in 49 states now. So I take it you're in Alaska now.
Not yet.
You're not. Okay.
Not yet.
So you're in Hawaii.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Good for you guys, man. That's fantastic. So tell me the process. So a distributor wants to use the product. What exactly is the process?
So it depends what service they're looking for or need, right? So I'll lay out the different needs that distributors will use us for.
Okay. Yeah.
They're either going to want a hot shot delivery, and that's just a delivery from point A to point B. They may need it then and there in the moment. They may need it scheduled for the future. And they may need a multi-stop delivery. They may need a branch transfer, which we do all these things.
Gotcha.
And they may want like a recurring route, right? Maybe they don't want to have the CapEx and like buy a new truck, hire a driver, get the insurance, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they're launching like one brand new location. We will take on all that. So if they're setting up a route, a little more preparation lead time, but it's real easy. You request a quote. We get an idea of what you're looking for, like how many stops, mileage and all that. Given a quote and they're ready to roll very fast. That's a very quick turnaround. For the other services, it's done similar how you would book an Uber delivery, right? You have a user interface on the website, select the vehicle, enter a PO number, and then, literally you get this nice little menu of, oh, I want this vehicle because that's what maybe I need a gooseneck trailer to move 4,000 pounds of pipe or something of that nature. It's very intuitive and it's just like point and click. And then you're set, you're ready to roll.
Are there limitations? So, again, you said gooseneck trailer. Okay, that's a common application. 20-foot flatbed, common application. Pickup truck. What are all of these different types of vehicles available in all these markets that you all serve?
Every single vehicle in every single geographical area, they all vary according to the supply.
Okay.
Supply is always increasing in those areas and getting better. Like, what I found is super interesting is that when you look at a heat map of where most of the distributors are located across the US, no matter what vertical you're in, it looks very similar to the heat map of all the places that we are working and delivering. And obviously there's a clear correlation there. So for example, not every single city across the US do we have a 20-foot gooseneck trailer, but that's part of like the process when they put in we will go search for that demand and make sure that happens for them. And it's done very quickly because we have access to a lot of drivers, hundreds of thousands, if not, millions. So we can access that for the customer. It essentially turns distributors, what are they at the end of the day? They are a sales organization, a sales company. They want to make more sales.
Yeah.
They are not a logistics company, though some of them have become their own logistics providers because that was the cost of doing business. But now that's not necessarily needed all the time. And so we have a lot of distributors that are literally selling off their trucks and just using Curri because they're making more sales. They're not taking on the risk and the insurance and all that for moving those supplies and materials. And they're saving a ton of money. So they're saving money, making more money because they have this elastic fleet at their fingertips.
And that's a great way to look at it, the elastic fleet, because this is something that if you had to buy all of these different sizes and shapes of vehicles to fit every application, you'd have so much money tied up in equipment. And if for one reason or another there was a downturn, all of a sudden you're sitting on this, rolling stock that you just can't do anything with.
Yes.
And you get yourself in a lot of trouble. I mean, I've had clients, where they'll have 3 or 4 pickup trucks just sitting, idle because a downturn in business, or it just, for one reason or another, lost employees and something like that. So
exactly. And that's another thing, just we will optimize that route for them. So they're going to save miles and spend because our software is doing an amazing job at that through machine learning and what we've done to really deliver a very efficient product and service for them. So there's no need to have idle trucks on the lot anymore. And there's certainly not a reason to hey, I'm going to go deploy $100K on a new truck and whatever else might be spent to do that and take on that loan and the cost of that loan to finance that. Just build up your business. Mm-hmm. You don't need to do that all the time. But again, no knock on companies who have done that, or maybe they've already made the capital expenses. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying cool. You probably did that to meet the current demand that you're having and delivering. Augment that fleet with Curri and continue to increase your sales.
Right.
Or some companies are spinning down certain vehicles and things like that to utilize Curri just for all the reasons I was before. They're saving money, they're making more money, and they're not taking on that risk.
Matt, one of the things that I see a lot is when a distributor wants to expand into a new market or new territory, it typically goes this way. You'll throw a scout out there, so the salesperson goes out, gins up business. And to fulfill that business, we're running vehicles out there, and it may be 2 hours outside from one of the nearest location or whatnot. But they're willing to do that before they're going to throw a brick and mortar in that market. It just seems to me like this is almost a perfect application where you're not having to tie up those resources for 2 hours out, 2 hours back for maybe one stop. If you're trying to cultivate this person, that you could utilize somebody like Curri to put that together, to test a market. It's really what it is testing the market before you decide to make a super investment there.
It's short-circuiting all of that. It's basically saying, just go ahead and make the sale now.
Right.
And then we'll fulfill that delivery. Just make the sale. We'll handle the movement of those supplies and materials. Just make the sale. You want to make the sale? Cool. Just try it. We get customers. I'm like, well, we'll see how they're going. Well, do you have customers there that are ready to buy? Yeah. All right, cool. Let's try it. Just go ahead and say yes. We'll fulfill that delivery for you right now. And they're just blown away.
Let's just give it a shot and see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, oh, you're kidding me, right? I'm like, no, it's fine. Just go ahead and book it. And they're just like, what? How did that happen? Because they're not expecting
it. We will make it happen.
Yeah. And also interesting about the distributor, when you talk to them, well, is the truck branded with our company logo? No. But then they're surprised that their customer, the contractor who's purchased it, really doesn't care.
Yeah.
What they care about most is, I want the supplies that I need, and I want the supplies when I need them. So it's timing. Again, it's all about that efficiency, velocity, and delivering an amazing experience for their customer. So our customer's customer, we keep very happy because it makes our direct customer very happy as well because they're making more sales. It changes the mindset.
Yeah. Matt, I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's what was drilled into my head at a very young age was you had to have your own logoed vehicles on the site because it was really your advertising, as you were going on a site, people were looking for that logo. And I think that was, again, that's an old mentality. That's a dying mentality. It's a generational difference mentality that we don't need to have that any longer. The most important thing is the fulfillment. Can I have it? Not what logo is on it. I think that, once you can kind of break that belief that there is a requirement for having a logoed vehicle with a driver with a special logo on their shirt. Once you can break that, then I think all of a sudden you open yourself up to how much do I have on the shelf to ship, not how many things do I have to ship it with.
Exactly. And what's even better on that is more on the efficiency side of what we offer. The distributors are going to outfit themselves with the largest needed vehicle, like a stake bed truck.
Yeah.
And if they have a high volume customer purchasing something small, something that fits in your hand or whatever, just something that's going to fit on your front seat, back seat, or in the trunk.
Right.
They're still going to send it in a large stake bed truck. It's not efficient use of space or whatever. You just want to talk about gas consumption. Just we fit the product to what type of vehicle it should go in. So that's, again, passing on the savings on to the distributor. That's huge, hugely important. So again, just back to that elasticity and perfectly matching demand.
Absolutely.
Not just in timing, but also in product size.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense for them. They're going to save a lot of money.
Yeah, it does. Could you touch on one area, the driver's side? Because this is one that I know is always a fear. This is a fear of that distributor. And frankly, I experienced that myself, sending people that I'm like, oh my God, what's the image going to look like on the other side? So I guess, how do you vet your drivers? How do you get them ready, to really be a professional face of the organization who has sent them?
Yeah. Background checks for one. Depending on what type of vehicle they own, there's a rigorous, making sure there's a compliance element there for the type of vehicle that they're driving. We have amazing insurance programs for what we're offering. There is like a lot of help resources for drivers that we point them to, like not wearing sandals, for example.
Right.
All the things that like all the other big platforms will have out there. This is a recipe for success and getting good reviews from the customer. So those things really help to increase the caliber of what we're offering and actually wow the customer with how we're doing it. It's constant communication with the drivers, setting great expectations for the customer.
I can imagine, Matt, that if somebody, uses a service for a while, that they're going to start to develop a relationship with that driver, because it probably is going to be the same person, on a regular basis, that they can start to figure out who this person is and then become more and more comfortable with the service being delivered.
Yeah. And there's feedback that occur in those situations too. Typically, they're already prepared and exceeding expectations from the get-go. Yeah. And they can, because it's gig and like, let's say they have like a recurring route. Yeah. They're probably going to see the same driver quite a bit for those.
Yeah.
But there may be another driver for that on some days.
Sure.
And then if they're also doing like those hot shot deliveries on demand or planned or scheduled, they're going to see some other people in there as well, but they're vetted. And we just want to deliver a stellar product, a stellar service for them. We're incentivized to, and the incentives are aligned perfectly. Having a good quality fleet and providing good quality service for the distributor so that they can wow their customer. So we take every measure to make sure that it's a stellar experience.
And not to put you on the spot about actual numbers, approximately how many delivery transactions are you all fulfilling on a daily, monthly basis or something like that? I mean, where are you at from your humble beginnings maybe 4 to 6 years ago?
Yeah, we're fulfilling a delivery roughly every 10 seconds. And that's of all sizes, something as small as a can of paint to something as big as like 30, 40,000 pounds of pipe being delivered with a semi truck. That's every single day and increasing rapidly. I'll add, that's not slowing down.
No, that's pretty amazing. And I know when you all launched, you launched, pre-pandemic. Did you see a dip during the pandemic during that? I mean, was there, or did you see it? People said, no, I want these guys, rather than my own folks.
So there's what I call the great pause. So you had all these traditional brick and mortar type businesses had to pause their operations until they figured out, how do we operate under this new paradigm?
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you look at all the publicly available size, like what's happening to the market, there's that great pause dip where it's just like uncertainty. We don't know what to do. Everyone just stops doing what they're doing. But then construction, industrial, it's obviously needed. It's needed for hospitals. It's needed for society to continue to function. So that lasted 2 or 3 weeks. And after that, just continued to grow. People said like, are you a COVID company? COVID company is simply just saying like, you're only growing because of COVID. We were growing at that clip before COVID,
mm-hmm.
during COVID. And even if we can call this post-COVID, we're growing still. So that to me points to just the fact this is a needed service and product for this industry. It's also very much needed so that anywhere from like mom and pop to mid-market to very large enterprise logos, and we serve all sizes. It allows like a single mom and pop shop to provide the same level of service that the largest enterprise is providing to their customer, which is a great forcing function. Like it levels the playing field and allows that same profitability to be made by a single shop owner
mm-hmm.
to a mid-market, to a giant enterprise. And that's really what makes me happy. I don't want people buying construction supplies from Amazon and those companies. I want to help the distributor be extremely competitive and do what they do best. Make the sales, keep that sales relationship, with their customer.
Yeah.
And then we'll deliver that product for you. And so that you can do what you do best.
Right. Not delivering product, slinging product.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. You do what you do best, and we'll do what we do best, and we'll pass on those efficiencies and savings to you.
And Matt, I really appreciate you kind of talking about the journey and the niche that you all are fulfilling and the problems that you all are solving out there. So how does this mom and pop, or even the multi-location entity, how do they start? How do they get involved with Curri? I mean, how do they try you all out?
Yeah, super easy. Curri.com, Curri.com, and then request a demo, or just sign up and start booking. It's really that easy.
And definitely website, but also app-based. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And we know most of our customers like to book on the web because typically they have like a desktop computer.
They're at their office, right?
Yeah, counter sale. So we've made that super intuitive and easy as well. But yeah, available mobile as well.
Mobile as well, yeah. Definitely. I will make sure that we include that in the show notes so people can find you. But, Matt, thank you so much, man, for being so generous with your time and telling the story. And man, I look at where you all have come in a very short period of time. And it's pretty exciting. And I wish you all the success in the world here. This is definitely a needed service, man.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate the time, man.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider sharing with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast application. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by the brilliant team at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, the Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.